everyone, welcome to my session. My name is Jenna Hopper. I'm a high school English teacher at Wilmington Area School District in New Wilmington, Pennsylvania. I also earned my PhD in education in 2013, and since then I've been researching different types of tech-related instruction. As an English teacher, I grade a lot of writing, and for the beginning of my career, that meant that I had to carry home a lot of papers that got lost, papers that had coffee spilled on them, and even papers that were destroyed by my dog. So you can imagine how excited I was when our school went one-to-one a few years ago. However, I quickly learned that there were some drawbacks on the grading end. And so my research took me in this direction, and I began researching ways to make grading not only more efficient for us as the teachers, but also ways to make grading more effective for the students. And we're not just talking about grading in terms of giving a score. We're talking about grading in terms of giving rich and valuable feedback. So this session will be broken up into 3 parts. First, we're going to talk about assigning digital grading or assigning digital tasks with purpose. That means that we think about grading and think about how we'd like to give feedback before we even assign our digital content. The second thing that we're going to talk about are some alternative ways that we can grade in order to make our grading a bit more streamlined. And then finally, we're going to talk about ways within Google Docs or Google Slides how we can make our grading more efficient and provide richer feedback using some tricks and tips to save comments to be reused. So I created a Google Classroom for us that we can use as our example, and I'm going to share my screen with you so you can see that now. Let's get started. Here is our example class. Once we get into our class, I am very guilty of going straight to the plus sign and instinctively clicking on the create an assignment option. This means that my students would either be getting a Google Doc or a Google Slide. And in order for me to give them feedback, I'm going to have to open up each and every one of those documents, which means that my computer is going to lag, which means that I have to waste time waiting for all of those documents to open. So I'd like to start by thinking about purpose. What type of feedback do you want to give students? And another option here when we click on the plus sign in Google Classroom is to create a question. And I started using this option as a way to give quick feedback without having to open up many different documents. So this works really simply. We just simply click on the question after we click on the plus sign, just like I did here. And you simply type in a question. This would work great for a bell ringer or to assess students' thesis statements. It's a really great option in order to give that student feedback. So our question today could be, what did you like best about your reading today? So when I assign this will show up on the student streams in Google Classroom. And then when they click on it, they'll have the option of answering. So what's really great from our end as the teacher, we're going to see every student's response right here in Google Classroom. So let's look at an example for which I went in and gave some responses so that we can see what it looks like. So as you can see here, it's a little confusing because there are several Jenna Hoppers, but as the example, this would be our student 1, and this is going to be our student 2. And you can see I already went in there and added some feedback because it's very simple. You simply click the reply button and we can give feedback directly in here. And what's nice about that is you don't have to open up any other documents. From this screen right here, you can see it will scroll for however many students you have in your class. You can then also go on the points and change the points assignment. You could make it ungraded if you'd like to make it ungraded. And then finally, you can give students their grade directly in Google Classroom. You never have to open up another document. So I always tell teachers that before they go to the Google Doc or to the Google Slides, think about what the purpose is of the assignment and think about how you might use a different format to assign it to students in the first place. Remember the days when you used to be able to just flip through assignments and check them for overall completion and overall quality? It's not really possible in Google without having to open up all of those different documents. However, I did find a workaround, and so I'm going to show you how to grade in preview mode. Now, this is an option that you won't be able to give feedback directly into a document, but I'm going to talk about ways that you can give feedback alternatively. So the way that we do this next option is by going back to Google Classroom and clicking on About. This is going to take us to the option where we can click on our class drive folder. Now you'll see all of your student assignments and all of the students' work in one document. So you can see my examples here. This is my example assignment. So when I click on it, it's going to show us my student examples. If I double click on it, it will actually open up the student example, but we don't want to wait for all of those to load. So instead, what we're going to do is right click on the assignment and we're going to click on Preview. This gives us the option to look at the student assignment and then toggle to the next student assignment. I love this example because what it does is it gives you the option to quickly flip through student assignments to grade 4 completion. So you can see that the first student wrote their example answer in purple, and the next student wrote their example answer in pink. So you can see that these are different, these would be different students. And if you have 30 students in the class, you can continue to scroll through it. If your document would have more than one page, you're simply able to scroll down and see all of the pages or all of the slides. So this is something that makes grading very efficient. If for whatever reason you would have to go into the document to make a comment, you could simply click on the Open with Google Docs button, and that's going to open up the assignment. Something that I like to do, though, is I like to give feedback in a hard copy format. So in this case, I might have my grade book out, and maybe I have my physical grade book, and I simply write down the scores for the students as I go. Or I could have slips of paper for each student and write a quick bit of feedback to them in that way as well. So this is just a tip for quick Google grading if you want to be able to toggle within Google Classroom. I should also mention that there are some great Google extensions that you can use in order to get that toggle feature. For this presentation today, I want to give you tips and tricks within Google Classroom, but you can also look up Doctopus and Gubrick as some of my favorites for adding that toggle feature for extensions in Google. So this is one of my favorite options. The next thing that we're going to talk about, though, is when it comes to actually giving that feedback. So you can see here I have this document open. Let's say that I need to give some feedback, some very specific feedback that I want to type to the student. What do? Well, there are several options that we can use in order to find the best one that works for you. So I'm going to present you a few different ways that we can save comments and add them to our documents from our saved list. And then the goal here is to find what works best for you. Sometimes it just takes a little bit of trial and error. Sometimes just watching what someone else does, you can figure out which one you would like best. But we're going to look at several options for saving comments and being able to insert those comments quickly and efficiently into your document. Once you have your document open and you are ready to give feedback, the first step is always to change your editing option to suggesting. This makes it so that you're not changing student work, but you'll be notifying them when you're adding something to your document. So step number 1, or example number 1, I should say, is something that I use as a way to insert comments quickly. It's called text replacement, and I'm going to start by showing you what it does. So let's say, for example, that this student needs some feedback related to their topic sentence. I'm just going to write a code that I came up with, topic sentence with the number 1, and when I press the space bar, it's going to insert my comment directly into the student's essay. Plus, it's going to insert a comment in the margin of the text for the student to see as well. And what's great about this is that you can make as many as you want. So I'm going to show you how to do this. This is one of my favorite comment replacements. You simply start by going to Tools, and you'll scroll down until you see Preferences. Preferences takes you to this text replacement option. So you can see here that for the sake of this tutorial, I have a few in here already. CS1 is an example of comment here. That's what would show up. And then down here at the bottom, I have the example that I gave you, topic sentence 1. And then I just typed what I would like to be replacing whatever I write as topic sentence 1. And it's really, really easy to make these. I simply come up with a code. And just as a tip, I like to make it something that I'm not going to be typing and have come up otherwise by accident. So for example, I wouldn't want it to be topic, because when I type topic in a student's essay and I don't want that comment to come up, it would. So let's say, for example, I'm going to use just a text example as, we'll do CS2 for comma splice 2. Whenever a comma splice shows up in a student essay, rather than having to type out the comments individually, because this is a very common error that I want to be correcting or commenting on in my students' essays, I'm going to make a very general statement about this, and I'm simply going to write comma splice, and then I would go on to explain. I might even add a hyperlink here to explain or look at another way for students to correct the comma splice. So we're going to click OK, and then you can see this in action. I'm just going to write CS2 and space, and you're going to see that it is replaced by the example that I had here. So it works really, really well when you are trying to grade efficiently and give that rich feedback, but you see a lot of the same mistakes coming up in your students' essays or in your students' writing, and this is an effective way to give them that feedback. Once you have your students' work open and you're ready to add comments, the first thing that you want to do is make sure that the document is on suggesting rather than editing. This makes it so that you're not just changing things in the student's document, but that you're going to be notifying them when you add something to their document. This will also make it possible to add comments. So let's start off just by adding a comment. Let's say that I want to add a comment related to this sentence. I simply highlight part of the sentence and I either click here at the top to add a comment, Control-Alt-M also does this, or you can see the button off in the corner to add a comment. So I can simply add a comment here. So what I'm going to show you next are 3 different options to insert a comment from a base of comments that you're going to make. You'll find, and as well as I did, that you often make the same comments over and over again for common mistakes that students make in their writing. So one example for this is something called text replacement. This is a great option for adding one of these baseline comments. So you can see here, let's say that I want to make a comment about my student's topic sentence. I'm going to show you it in action first, just by writing topic sentence 1. When I press space, it's going to magically insert a comment that I had already predetermined based on what I'd like to say about a topic sentence. So let's go and see how we do this. It's very simple to add these. You simply go to Tools and then Preferences. Once you get here, you can see that you have 2 options. You have Replace and then With. So we're going to start with whatever keyword we want to use to remind ourselves of that common comment that we would like to give. So let's just give an example. Let's write comment 1. And then I'd like comment 1 to be replaced with great job. So you can see how valuable this would be if you have some more advanced options. You can see here at the bottom, my topic sentence 1, and then my larger comment just goes here. I personally like to keep track of all of mine in some sort of Google Docs so that I can just copy and paste them into here. And while I'm grading this, helps me remember what my replace keywords are. So once you're finished with that, you simply click OK, and then let's see this in action. Let's click at the beginning of this sentence, and we're simply going to write comment 1, and you'll see that it replaced with great job. It also added this comment out here in the margin for students to be able to see very quickly. What I really like about this is that you can write whatever you would like in this comment section, and it's going to replace it here. And it will also make a note for the students outside in the document as well. And you can write as many of these as you'd like and just keep track of them as you go. Whenever I'm writing my text replacements, I like to make sure that I write something with a number at the end so that I don't accidentally use a text replacement for a word that I would be typing otherwise and I don't want to be replaced. For example, if I just wrote the word comment, that might come up in my writing otherwise, and it might replace something that I don't want it to comment. So I always like to do a keyword and a number that goes along with it. So that's option number 1. Moving on to option number 2. We're going to do something similar, but this time we're going to use Google Keep as our option. So in order to access Google Keep, the first thing again that we want to do is make sure that our document is in suggesting mode. And we are simply going to go back to Tools, and this time we're going to click on the button Keep Notepad. So what this does is this is going to bring up a notepad that has several different notes that you've already created and that you can simply drag and drop into your document. So you can see here, here's an example of a common mistake that appears in student essays. Here's a contraction. What I'm going to do is simply drag and drop wherever I want it to show up in the document, and it is going to add the comment as a text replacement. And again, it's going to add over here in the corner, in the margin, the comment as well. So what's great about this is that you can actually color coordinate this, which makes me really happy because I like the bit of organization here. So let me show you how we do this. It's actually really simple. You simply open up your Keep Notepad. So we go again to Tools, and then Keep Notepad. That brings up our notepad in our document. And then from here, you can see this button that says Go to Keep. So this brings up our Google Keep. And what's great about this is that you can have lots of different types of comments and different types of to-do lists. This is a really, really great function in Google, but we're going to use it for grading. So you can see here that I specifically have one for grading. And you can see here, what's great about this is that we can color code them. We can have similar errors the same color, or you can even add hyperlinks, you can see here, to places where students can access more information. One thing that I personally like to do when I'm making my comments is add the words revise throughout, because this is a really easy way that you just drag and drop it one time into the document. And then when you're seeing that mistake show up over and over again, students know that they can learn about this more by going to the website, and then it's their responsibility to go back and revise. This works really great for revision assignments. So when we're ready to add a new one, we simply go to the top where it says Take Note. We're going to write our example at the top. And we can color code it if we would like. Let's do a different color that we don't have yet. There we go. And it's going to add it right there. So when we go back to our assignment, you'll see that when we refresh it, it will show up right at the top, and we can do the same thing. We can drag and drop this directly into our assignment, and you'll see the same thing happen again. This is such a great option for dragging and dropping comments and being able to make sure that those important comments are getting to the students and that you have consistent language between each student. That's really important for me as well. The last option that I'm going to show you is another way that we can drag and drop comments. And we are going to start by going up here to the top that says Permanent Clipboard. Now for this one, I did have to add a Google extension, but you can see here that it functions really well right within our Google document. So when I click on Permanent Clipboard, it's going to bring up a clipboard that will show up on top of the student's document. We're going to use this the same way that we did the last one. You can see here that I have one that I already set up. It says awkward. So let's say that there's some awkward wording in here that I need to address. When I click on this entry, it's going to copy the comment related to the word awkward. So when I go back into my document and I need to change something or I need to add a comment, I'm simply going to click the Add Comment button and I am going to paste. It's going to bring that comment right into the document. So you can either add that as a comment or you can go back into your document and you can also just paste it. I did Control V there, paste it right into your document. So this is another great time saver, and this one's also very easy to set up as well. I simply click on Permanent Keyboard, which will bring it up, and I'm going to add a new one. You can simply add a new entry. And we'll add our comment example. It's that easy to add them. And then from here, whenever I click on comment, it's going to copy whatever information I had in there. And then I'm simply going to go back and I'll paste it somewhere into my document so that you can see what it looks like. And you can see that it added my text right in there. So that's the third way that I really like to use different types. My intention in showing you all of these types is really that you have to find one that works for you. I really believe that this is a great time saver to have a stock set of answers that are going to, or comments that are going to help students revise their essay or help students understand what your markings mean is invaluable, because rather than typing out the same thing to students over and over again, you can simply insert these stock comments, and you can even give them further information by providing them with other hyperlinks. So these are options, and again, I stress, you have to figure out what works best for you. All of these are similar, but they all function a little bit differently. You need to find which one works best for you, and you can go from there. And the best part about this is, even though it takes a little bit of work to set up front, you can often use the same comments over and over again from the 3 different options that I showed you. And then once you have it set up, the work is done, and it makes grading much more efficient. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you learned some Google grading hacks that you'll be able to use in your classroom. Although there is some work that needs to be done up front, I've found that the work really has a great result for me in the end. It saves me a lot of time. And it's, again, not just about saving time. It's also about being able to provide valuable digital feedback to our students. So again, thanks for joining me, and feel free to contact me anytime for further information.